You get a two fools agree on that one. Oh, by the way, look, we got the wide shot.
There was you had accountability. Now what I can
Now all you need is a podcast and a YouTube channel.
No, not even.
Where give me the money. Show me the money.
Apparently there's a Foolproof page.
Shoot the J. Shoot it. Live at Facebook.com/Foolproof Entertainment Network. I need you on Twitter. I need you to repost the Facebook pages.
To raise a human before I would
trust a human to raise back wolves.
before I would trust a pack of humans to raise a wolf.
Right. I hear you. Yo, what up, fools? Welcome to another edition of Do Fools Agree. As always, I'm your host, Michael Reggie, here with my main man, Clifford Jordan Jennings.
That would be me.
That would be you. How you doing this week, sir?
That would be me. Another one bites the dust. And another one bites another one. Another one bites the dust. Listen, check that bitch off. It's done.
It's done.
It's done. It's out of there.
Put it on the board.
You know, that one's done. Mark it off. Another beer off the wall. Another one down. Pass it around.
98. What is the number of beers Cliff and I go through in a week?
Listen.
Oh, man. So, how was your week?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
I'm kind of with you. This was a weird week.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I wouldn't call it the week rough, but I mean there were rough points, but as a whole, I think it was just an average week.
Yeah.
Highs, lows, you know. Your climaxes, your preludes. Had a bit of all that.
No, I'm with you. It was it's kind of a wavy week. Like
right.
We kept son home from school on Tuesday, which meant he had to also stay home Wednesday because he had a fever, so you had to have 24 hours clear or whatever. And then I came down with whatever he had on Thursday. Now, I was lucky because it hit me at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
So
I pretty much passed out for 12 out of the next 14 hours, and I was good when I finally came out of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, so that wasn't that bad at all then.
No, and I mean, the only thing that sucked was yesterday was his birthday. So, like, I woke up to do a meal and, like, watch him open presents, and then, like, I passed right back out.
It's okay. So. You celebrated it Saturday, so.
That's true. And he's got another one this Saturday, so
let's see.
We'll get through it.
Oh, shit.
But, well, and then work was, you know, like, work the last 2 weeks hasn't felt productive, but I think it's been more productive than it's felt because it's been putting out mini fires, but not feeling like there was anything major accomplished. So.
Right.
Which is always just a weird feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so you got here, and I have to let you know, A-Reg was talking some shit on you.
About what?
As he was done with bed. He's like, well, Uncle Cliff said he was a good Beyblader. He's not very good.
Well, that little motherfucker hustled me. That's what happened.
He did hustle.
I'm the best Beyblader, and he knows it. That's why he hustled me, because last time I was whooping his ass with the bad Beyblade. So he decided to clip my brake lines today.
He did. He said, take this one, Uncle Cliff.
Right. And you never trust him. I knew better.
You know, if he's telling you to take one, that's the wrong one to take.
I knew better.
I can tell you that from personal experience.
Well, no, he hustled me because he said, no, don't take that one. That's the bad one. And then I picked the next one. He said, okay, he picked the good one. I said, oh, okay, this little motherfucker knows how to hustle somebody.
He knows how to say.
Listen, okay.
Oh, man. He's funny.
He is.
He's a trip.
He definitely is.
He's had flashes of being hysterical outside of being sick this week.
Really?
You know what? He's a smart ass, but he does it in a more loving way than I do. Like, mine has always just been like biting sarcasm.
Uh-huh.
He will do the biting sarcasm followed up by something to make the person that he was just making fun of laugh.
He's like a Sour
so
Patch
he's
Kid.
like that. Right.
First they're sour, then they're sweet.
Oh no, we got the dog in the house.
Damn it, Lou.
Oh goodness. Well, we got Louie in the studio. What are you gonna do? So you got any inadvertent thoughts to get us going this week, Mr. Jennings?
I don't really.
No?
I don't really have any inadverts, to be honest.
Nothing?
Well, no, not really. I had damn, I can't even think. What was it I was listening to that had me thinking about? Oh, yeah, I was listening to
What you got?
the Flagrant 2 podcast, and they had a what's it called? The tea, the hallucinogenic tea.
Oh, I don't know. There's a hallucinogenic tea?
Yes, it's damn it. What is it called? Damn it, I can't think of the name. That's gonna bother me. Ayahuasca. They had an ayahuasca shaman on there.
In fairness, I had to look it up.
I knew it, I just didn't know I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know what I knew. But they had an ayahuasca shaman on the podcast, and they was explaining like all the reasons to, and like how they have like the little resorts and shit like dedicated to taking ayahuasca.
Right. Usually it's like the theory, like there are a bunch of different, usually it's like a higher end retreat, right? Where it's
Well, listen, I mean, I don't know. The way the dude was saying it, like, I guess, I wish I knew his name, too. I'm sure I could look
out
it
on,
up.
like, the prairies, or?
No, he's a shaman, so he does it wherever. So basically, he was saying, like, if you wanted to do a private retreat, it would be anywhere from, like, 100 to 300 a person. And then you have to cover the flight of the shaman.
The shaman to get there.
Right. And he said it's usually about a 3-day thing because you have to fast and you can only eat vegan. Okay. No alcohol, no drugs.
Minus the ayahuasca.
Well, before you take it, leading up. And he explained that's because you want all of your energy, whether good or bad, to be yours and yours alone.
So basically by not putting anything else into your body at that point.
So he said, like, for example, he said he's had people who have not done the vegan diet and would say, well, I'll only eat poultry while you guys do vegan. And he said that those people have gone in and gotten the bad vibes of the chicken and have come out saying, I'll never eat a chicken again. You know what I mean? Because you don't know what that chicken experienced when it was slaughtered or whatever. So,
generally speaking, like they meet a pretty dramatic end,
right?
or they live a life of they're trapped in the cage, and
usually they know it's coming too because you break the neck first,
right?
And just breaking the neck doesn't kill the chicken. You know what I mean? It just
paralyzes.
Right. Then you cut the head off, which still doesn't take you out.
Still running at that.
Right. Even us, you cut our head off and we'll still be alive for a little while before we finally gas out.
Right.
So, I mean, I can only imagine the kind of trauma that may carry into your experience if you do eat. And, let's be honest, you may have like one of those chickens that was like, fuck it, I'm ready to go. You know what I mean? And had a good way out.
Right.
Wasn't traumatized at all.
And getting fat,
right.
So it seems like an appropriate end.
But, you know, like I definitely understood that, and just the explanations of why people do it or should, or what they found from it, definitely intrigued me. You know what I mean? Like,
just in terms of doing one of these ayahuasca
right.
kind of journeys or whatnot.
Because I don't, you know what I mean? I'm the kind of guy that leans into pain. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I have issues, something's wrong. I want to feel it to right. get over it, as opposed to, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. Try to drain it out. So I have absolutely no problem meeting my demons. You know what I mean? And I've also found that the biggest fears I've had in life, once facing them, it's like, oh, really? You know what I mean? Like, you're almost kind of let down. Oh, I thought like, this
wasn't that big of a deal.
Right, I thought this was going to be more than that. So I feel like there's a lot of questions unanswered that I feel like an experience like that could answer. You know what I mean? Because I've taken shrooms before and all that, and could never attempt to relate the two.
Got it.
But once you do experience something like that, you do kind of get that question where it's like, well, what's real and what's not? You know what I mean? Like, is this always around, and I just need this to feel it, or?
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like,
I think so. The flip side is I don't have really a frame of reference.
Right.
So, like, having not experienced that,
it's hard to.
Right. So I don't know how to relate. I think that from the way I've heard it explained, I'm with you in terms of, is it like, are those energies or those
and that's exactly
or whatever it is, are they always around you?
Exactly.
And that just allows you to release the walls that keep you from seeing it?
Because it's like people will say, like, I can hear colors, or right. I can see music, and I've experienced all of that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? In my mushroom experience, I've experienced all of that, like the seeing music and like hearing colors, because like, you know, like, it sounds crazy, but even certain songs, and I don't know if this is a before or after thing, but even certain songs to me equate to colors.
I can see that, and I mean, they say a lot of the prominent musicians feel that way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in terms of, like, they could paint their songs, basically.
I could see how you could do that.
I want to say that was even a line, like, there was a couple episodes about that in, like, Empire and that kind of stuff.
Really?
Yeah. Where basically he took a painting to relate back to music.
I could see how you could do that, just based on my experience with the whole thing. But, I mean, and he even got into it on that, where it was like, because one of the questions he asked was, well, is ayahuasca and shrooms related?
Yeah.
And the dude said, shrooms have always been considered the niños, or the brothers of
ayahuasca.
But ayahuasca is the madre.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's like the
mother of the right, like yeah, the little brother will play around with you. You know what I mean, and let you see music and hear colors, but mom has something to tell you. Right. You know what I mean? Mom's gonna sit you down and kick that real shit to you, while brother's just gonna play around.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's kind of what intrigues me to it, like, because a lot of things that they were explaining in the episode, of course, like they were saying, like, it's good for people that have been through traumatic experiences and things like that, and I've had my fair share of those. But I also don't equate them. We've had the conversation the way other people do as well.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see what Mother Nature would have to say to me. You know what I mean? Like...
Gotcha. Well, and it's interesting because the way Uncle Dan's framing it in the chat is altered consciousness versus higher consciousness, mushrooms and ayahuasca. And then,
that's great. That's a great.
Yeah, and the Rita's actually chiming in. Apparently, there's a good doc on Netflix called The Last Shaman.
Okay.
Which is all about basically what you're talking about. And I'm actually curious if it's about a modern day shaman, like if it's maybe it's even the guy that you're talking about from the podcast that was guest star. So.
And I'm gonna before we get this done, I'm gonna get his name because I think it's listed in the title of the episode.
The title of the episode.
But like it was a real deep episode. Let me see.
Well, and it sounds like, too, like, it ties into previous conversations we've had, even the one we had last week about, like, mental illness, and that the mental illness is the fact that we have these walls that we've put up.
It just says Shaman Omar.
Okay. Versus kind of what, like, if you were to allow yourself to actually connect.
Right.
And we didn't have all these barriers. Like, being able to tap that other level.
Right, like your schizophrenia may even be you closer to being normal than us not being, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like you're more open to the different planes and vibrations and energies around you than we are, which is why you're considered schizophrenic. But that doesn't mean that could actually mean that we're more handicapped. Right. Because we're not experiencing those vibrations and those things going on that you're experiencing because you're more sensitive to it. The key is to controlling the sensitivity.
Right. But being sensitive to it isn't a bad thing. It's just
right. Where us is we're numb. We're callous to it. We don't even know what... It's almost like when they say your pineal gland gets calcified and you're not using it the way you should. And that's interesting too, because in that podcast, that's what he was saying. He was saying, imagine your pineal gland to be your stomach. And he said, and with ayahuasca and all these things, like your body, well, your liver specifically has inhibitors, enzymes that inhibit DMT to be broken down to where you'll feel it like that drug.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? But basically the ayahuasca stops the enzymes in your liver from breaking it down that way to where you actually absorb it. And he said that's you feeding your third eye. That's your third eye sustenance. Okay, so basically... like food is your stomach.
It can't be broken down in the same way others can. So you're getting a more, for lack of a better term, basically a more pure version.
Right. And instead of it feeding you, it's feeding your
mind's eye.
Inner, right.
Okay.
And I feel like that's definitely, yeah, I definitely am. I'm not going to lie about it. I even heard they were talking about it on another podcast that I heard they had one of the retreats or resorts or something like that in Cleveland. Now, me, I don't trust anything in Cleveland.
Says the Cavs fan.
And that's one of the reasons why I don't trust anything in Cleveland. But I can't say that I wouldn't be willing to do my research on it, because it is something that does very much intrigue me.
Yeah. No, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm just, and you know what? At the same time, though, as much as I am intrigued by it. But you know what? That's that nonsense, though, to me.
What do you mean?
And God forgive me if it comes off wrong, but that's that nonsense to me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to get that deep into it, but you know, like the Adam and Eve, like eating the apple, like from the tree of knowledge, and by no means would I ever want to overstep my bounds. You know what I mean? I don't want to be the guy that builds the ladder to heaven for God to strike him down because he wasn't meant to be there. Right. So if that, in a sense, is the same as eating from the tree of knowledge, I'm good on that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But at the same time, I feel like that's that bullshit.
Well, also remember, and we've had this conversation before, biblical stories are written by man.
And that's what I'm saying, man. I don't know if
like,
I trust...
If the intent was control...
Right.
Well, then what's the number one way to control?
That's why I say that's that bullshit.
Limit knowledge.
That's why I say that's that bullshit.
If you make knowledge poison,
right.
It's much easier to control the masses. That's why we have such a bad public education system here in the States. Especially for primary and secondary.
Right. That makes sense.
It's easier to control the population.
Right. And I've never been one easily controlled, but at the same time, I'm very loyal.
Right.
So I know that if something would hurt someone, whether I want to or not, I can't do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't do that knowing that I am. Unintentionally, I have no problem hurting you.
Right.
But knowing that this could possibly hurt you, I just can't go through with that. And that's regardless of who you are to me. You know what I mean? Like, right. You could be somebody I don't really care for. I still don't want to intentionally hurt anybody. Right. Unless I intend to hurt someone. You know what I mean? That's something completely different. Then I want to all the way.
Right.
Well, I don't know. Even still, I might not want to.
What you want is... I mean, basically what it comes down to is you want there to be acknowledgement that you are trying to hurt each other.
But I can hurt you better if I want to.
Exactly.
Is how I feel about it. And a lot of things are... It's a lot easier... I won't even say easier, you know what I mean? Because when you think of hurt, you think of physical. But I'm a mind fuck as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So... Yeah, no, don't intentionally want to hurt anybody. Is what it comes down to. But if my gears get to turning, just make sure you look both ways before exiting doors, crossing streets, and that's all I'm saying.
Oh, man. So you listened to a podcast about a shaman. I watched a documentary on... So I haven't finished the QAnon one, but I watched that Athlete A on Netflix.
Haven't heard of it.
So Athlete A is basically the documentary around what was it? Is it Larry Nassar, Michigan State, USA Gymnastics doctor.
Oh, I think. Oh, that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No.
So watch that and. Watching this dude, like, because they basically aired his interrogation.
Right.
So he was brought in a couple of times on charges, willingly showed up, willingly kept talking, never asked for, a lawyer to be present. And all I could think was, this dude either legitimately thinks that what he was doing was, like, to the benefit of the girls, or he was the biggest fucking idiot ever. Like, especially after he's been brought in, like, the third or the fourth time.
Or he talked himself into the lie.
Right, exactly.
It's not hard to talk yourself into a lie, especially if you've been doing something for long enough.
Well, and what was fucked up is that you find out how rampant it was just from a... Like, he's the only one that I think was convicted of any kind of sexual misconduct.
Right.
But, like, just how abusive the gymnastics world is. And, I mean, you see
I'm sure, yeah. Yeah.
But, like, it makes you wonder, and don't get me wrong, because I do think that tough love and sports go hand in hand.
Right. And I think that both are necessary.
It's the strongest steel is tested by the hottest fire. Now, do I think that means people need to be emotionally abusive? No. Do I think that, like...
Well, if I'm being honest, it depends on what your definition of emotionally abusive is.
I agree with you there.
Because nowadays, emotionally abusive can be contrived of anything.
Right.
Whatsoever.
I'm sure you and I both could make claims of that.
But I don't agree with that. Like, I just think that that's the fall from grace, if you will. You know what I mean? Like, you have to have a certain exterior about you to where... So, I mean, just to words changed my life. I'll never forget, I was in barber school. I was probably 18. And one of the older dudes there, his name was Booney. He was real before his time. Just a piece, like a Rasta kind of dude. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I guess he saw me get upset or was about to do something or something. And he sat me down and he was like, listen, I know you consider yourself strong, but nobody should be strong enough to be able to knock you off your pivot.
Okay.
So basically what he was saying is, regardless of what you want to do, that shouldn't be enough for this to derail you from what you're doing currently. And I thought to myself, like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, it's very easy to show someone how physically dominant you are.
Yeah.
But to really look inward and be like, I know I want to flip out. I know I want to break shit, but you can, be all right, breathe a bit. And I mean, not to explain my week, but those words have come in my mind a couple times this week, where it's like, don't just cool out, go about it a different way. They shouldn't be strong enough to knock you off your pivot.
Right.
And I think that comes from a certain amount of tough love. I won't say emotional abuse, but it comes from tough. Like, motherfuckers used to say, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
Right.
Now it's the vice fucking versa.
Right.
Where it's like, the words hurt me, but sticks and stones get thrown all day. Kids killing kids daily. But the words are what we're concerned about.
Right.
Like, I feel like anybody who feels that strongly about words, regardless of color, should check their fucking privilege. If that's all you have to worry about is a word,
right, having your feelings hurt,
then bitch, you're welcome. Because it's a lot of people going through a lot worse to where words would be a blessing for them to have to deal with.
Absolutely.
So you know what? Now, whenever somebody gets offended by words, I'm just start saying, bitch, you're welcome.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Right. The Rock, Moana. You're welcome. You're welcome. I reminded you that you're that privileged that you can get upset about words that were said. You're welcome. And here we are.
No, I'm with you.
Here we are.
I feel a lot of the same way on that front.
I mean, you said it. Like, that's what it is. Like, and when you think about it, that's why sports are dying.
Oh, no doubt.
You know what I mean? And they are, whether you want to admit it or not. Yes, they're still generating millions of dollars, but when you look at it from a standpoint of where we were to where we are.
Well, I think there's a couple of factors there. I do think that, one, to your point, I think tough love in sports, I think you've got, actually, let me take that back, because I think it's two extremes. I think you have the extreme of the parents that bury the kid in the sport and they play it all year round, and by the time they get to high school, they're burnt out on it.
That was me.
And then you've got the other ones that just aren't tough enough to make it through sports and can't handle adversity in terms of getting knocked down and not wanting to get back up.
Right.
And it's those two extremes. And it's especially prevalent in individual sports, basketball, soccer, baseball, on the year-round shit.
Oh, I can attest. You get sick of getting knocked down in the sport and then coming home to get knocked down by your caretaker who wants to train you even harder at the sport. Like, it's too repetitive. That's where there's no escape. You know what I mean? It's like, goddamn, where can I relax?
By the time you get to a level where you can actually have it be a positive
you don't want to do it anymore.
Life, you don't want to do it.
I don't want to do it. Right. Right.
I mean, I get that.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, it's two different. It's two very different extremes, and you got to find that common balance.
And I think that's why, honestly, like a sport like football has been hit the hardest.
Yeah, because I mean, it takes a lot in you.
Down and down over
you have to be dedicated. And listen, and understand these are only two sports that I know as well as I do, but it's almost like football is the right below boxing when it comes to dedication. And I don't mean that you you can afford to be less dedicated in football. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, usually when you have a child that boxes or does that as a sport, they're going to be more dedicated because you understand the stakes in that sport.
Right.
A mistake can kill me in this, so I have to make sure I'm top-notch, ready at the peak of my... When football, you can still play it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You still have the same risks. Right. A mistake can still kill you. It just may not be as easy to do it there as it is in this ring here.
It depends on the position, and it depends on what you're doing.
So there's a lot of kids that go into it thinking, yeah, I'm gonna play football.
Right.
But you can't play boxing. You know what I mean? And you shouldn't play football.
Right.
You should do it. Don't play it. Because as much as it is a sport, it's not a game.
Well, and I think, honestly, what I would put in terms of kind of what you're talking about with boxing, like, in fairness, I would put boxing, wrestling, gymnastics all in the same thing. Because gymnastics is, to your point, like, you're putting your life on the line when you're attempting something.
Right, right. No, I agree.
And so bringing it back to, like, the documentary, like, you see these girls who are basically, like, bribed into believing that there's only one way to the Olympics or only one way to nationals and blah, blah, blah. And that made them a vulnerable population because what they were fed was, this is the only way you make it.
You know what?
So that's why they never reported. That's why, like, this dude was able to get away with this shit for 3 decades, not to mention the fact that the organization covered everything up for him.
Right.
Because the dude who ran USA Gymnastics was not a gymnastics guy. He was a sports marketer, and he knew a scandal like that would blow the lid off USA Gymnastics.
Right.
And so he did everything he could to cover up. He was telling parents that they were in active conversations with the FBI while these girls were still competing and being treated by this dude. So he would tell parents, like, no, you can't go to the press because we're like in an active investigation with the FBI, and if you go to the press, it'll ruin the investigation. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, how did these parents believe this shit? And then I thought about it, and I was like, I've never been part of an FBI investigation. I don't know. Maybe, like, if you trust the organization and you think it's just one bad actor, maybe you're trusting them. And I'm like, could I ever? No, I could never do that.
You know what? It's not. I don't even think it's about that. You know what I mean? Because I could. I think I could do that.
Think you could trust an
organization?
organization?
Just because. No, not an organization. I could trust my daughter. You know what I mean? Now, if my daughter says everything's cool, I'm not, like, regardless, are you getting stretched too much? Are they putting their hands places when they, if you say no.
But if you're not even thinking to ask those questions, because that's, I think that that's actually the issue, is to your point, like, one, they isolate the girls away from their parents.
Right.
They go down to a camp in like an isolated area that doesn't have cell phone reception, doesn't have XYZ.
Oh, is that what they're doing there?
Yeah, they basically take them out in the woods.
That wouldn't happen. That would never happen.
But that's how USA
Gymnastics
has worked for 30 years.
I don't care how good. Listen, and you know that's another thing. Like, who the fuck is? I know it's hard to say, but like, who the fuck is USA Gymnastics when you have Simone Biles?
Well, that's actually the interesting thing with this whole documentary is that she's around the whole thing. She's not actively part of the documentary.
And that's what I'm saying, because when you're that good, I don't have to go by your shit.
Oh, no. And I guarantee you, her parents, like her dad, her foster dad, or her adopted father.
I'm sure they have her together. Like,
I'm sure they have her separated from...
Right, this doesn't work with our regiment, so we can't do that. And I feel like that's why they're giving her so many hard times. Like, well, you can't do this move because it's too dangerous. Yet we know you can do it, but you may be pushing the other kids to try to do something they're not.
That they really
pushing
can't
other
handle.
kids to do something they're not ready for. Isn't that what you do for a fucking living? You as USA Gymnastics are telling me I can't do a move because these kids may be pushed to try to what have you been trying to do with them for the past 30 years?
Right.
Because God gave me the ability, now you're going to try to say, I would hit it every time. I would hit
That's
that move.
The one move you were
every
do.
time. I would get disqualified at the end. Every time I'm going to hit this move and I'm going to show you, like, that's how I'd get down.
Like, who was it? It used to be Billy Kidman with the shooting star press, or like who did the 420 splash but did the 3 full or the 2.5 full rotation.
You talking about wrestling?
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, I got that in a file cabinet.
Cruiserweight back in the WCW days.
I got that in a file cabinet. I just, you know, it takes a lot to open that. But my point is, when you have somebody that good, it's like Floyd Mayweather.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, he's that good to the point that now every great fighter wants to come to him.
Right.
They're not worried about a Al Heyman or a Eddie Hearn or the top-notch people that supposedly... No, I want Mayweather.
I want Floyd's camp to tell me how to make
even
money.
though Al Heyman made Floyd... Well, I won't say made. He pushed him in the right direction and let Floyd do his thing. They're wanting Floyd.
Taught him something.
Right, so it's the same thing with USA Gymnastics. Yeah, I know Simone Biles may have trained under you, but I've never seen you train anybody else to do what she does. I want to be under her, specifically.
Well, and give her until she's done competing, and you'll see that.
And you will see that, but that's what I'm saying. It takes that to change the system.
It does.
That's currently what we're in our socioeconomic situation as well. It takes somebody that can step outside of those so-called rules. Like, yeah, those are your rules, though.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? Me, I'm of a different breed, and I can show you I am by doing this.
Yeah.
And once they do it, they're like, oh, shit, we didn't expect that. So at that point, you have a choice. You can fight against the tide. Eventually, you'll drown.
Right.
Or you can rock with it and see where it takes the both of you.
Yeah.
And right now, in our socioeconomic platform, we're fighting against the tide. And it's only a matter of time before bodies start floating to the top.
Yeah.
Because it's inevitable. You will drown if you fight against the tide. And this tide is not just water. This is what we talked about the past couple of episodes. This is the flow of life. These are vibrations around us. You can fight against them if you want to.
Well, I mean, speaking of vibrations and speaking about fighting against the times, we had a verdict come out this week.
Right.
In the case of George Floyd.
Right.
Guilty on all 3 counts.
Right.
Does that mean anything?
No.
He's not the first cop to be convicted of.
No, right. That's what I'm saying. Like, and then why the fuck, like, motherfuckers is just happy. Like, motherfuckers expect black folks to be happy. Like, why should you be happy for justice?
Right. When you're still talking about what? How many of the other unarmed black folks that have been killed in the last 3 years have their killers been fucking arrested or convicted, more to the point.
Listen, I mean, in the past,
like really, it's Floyd, and that's it. I mean, has there been another one that's been convicted?
Yeah,
I think so.
I don't either. I don't either.
So.
You know what? But they was also talking about on that. No, it was on the Brilliant Idiots with Charlamagne and what's her name. Dude said the quote that I can't remember what the lady's name, but she said, "Listen, violence works.
Yeah,
violence works. You can try all that peaceful protest shit all you want, but they wouldn't have gave him that guilty verdict like that if they didn't know that motherfuckers was going to tear shit the fuck up.
Right.
If they knew we was just gonna sit back and eat it like we always do, he'd have got off as well."
No, and I completely agree with that. And what's interesting is, like, you saw downtown Minneapolis, because that's where it was, right? They boarded up everything.
Right.
The day before, like, or basically
and
when
you
it
know
went
what?
to the jury.
My crazy ass, somebody like my crazy ass, I'd have looked at that as a sign of disrespect.
Right.
Like, oh, first off, fuck the trial. Do you think these boards are going to stop me? You think these boards are going to stop me?
No.
Do you think these boards are going to stop, and let alone 100 other people?
No.
These boards aren't going to stop shit. And it lets me know where you stand.
Absolutely.
That lets me know exactly where you stand. You
well,
know
a lot of people were saying, like, were they doing that because they got a heads up that the verdict was going to be that basically they knew the system was rigged, they knew that he was going to get off, and
I wouldn't doubt it, but let's be honest.
Is that giving people too much credit?
I think that is, and at the same time, if I'm going to give people a little bit more credit, they were probably like, nah, this ain't going to work, bro. We can't, nope, I don't care about that. I'm not about to risk my business. You're going to have to put him in jail.
Right. Right.
This isn't going to work. Just me boarding these buildings up is not going to work. Because I guarantee you, if they said not guilty, I might have flew to Minneapolis myself to light a few matches.
Well, I mean, but on that same trip, like, this goes back to Breonna Taylor. No arrests, no convictions. Was it Eric Garner? No arrests, no convictions. I don't know.
I mean, you could. The list goes on, but I mean,
but I wonder, like, so one, this was a high visibility one. Great, glad justice was served. Doesn't bring George Floyd back. Doesn't mean life is any easier for black folks in America. Like, doesn't mean that we don't still have work to do. Like, my whole thing with it is, and I said this in like a a social media post. Like, it's one step. Doesn't really mean anything when we're talking 100-mile journey. One step, yeah, it's one step, but it's not anything more than that. It's not. Right. It's very insignificant in terms of the course that, in order for us to move on as a nation, like, what needs to happen. It's inconsequential in the grand scheme, but if it's a step in the right direction, a step is still a step. You know what I mean?
No, I definitely agree. You know, progress is progress. I will give you that.
No matter how minimal, how...
But at the same time, it comes to a point where motherfuckers can't keep accepting that. You know what I mean?
And I'm with you. And I think it comes back to, like, you have to see real change and reform. And just because one person gets convicted of a guilty verdict doesn't mean that that's the reform that we're talking about.
Right.
Like, the reform is that it doesn't fucking happen again.
I mean, I'm just getting
and meanwhile, it wasn't even 12 hours after the verdict. And granted, I've seen the video, all that, but we had...
Are you talking about the little Columbus girl?
Yeah.
Well, see, I have an alternate stance on that, because my understanding...
And I saw the video, like... I see why. Like, I don't necessarily blame the cop in that situation. I blame the cop's training.
Well, see, here's my thing in this situation is that my understanding is that the 4 young girls came to her house.
Okay.
To jump her. She clearly felt threatened, right?
Yeah.
To a point that she knew she couldn't take these 4 girls with her hands. Let me grab a knife. You called the police 4 times.
So the attacker called the police 4 times. The girl that ended up dead called the police.
Right.
Okay.
She was the one. That's even the neighbor.
I know
the neighbor even said
called.
she was the one that was calling the police. So what I'm saying is, if you call the police, even if it wasn't 4 times, even if it was just twice,
even if it was just once,
I still have to defend myself until you get here.
Yeah.
I.e., that's stand your ground law.
I agree.
So
but the second but you have to understand, once you ask the cops to get involved, you have to be the first person to comply when they show up.
No, I definitely understand that if. Now this is where I was getting. If you're white, that's very easy.
True.
Because if it is a situation where you stand your ground, you can pull your gun out. If you pull your gun out, even if you shoot somebody and you're standing your ground, you're fine. When the police pulls up, put your gun on the ground, put your hands up. Usually they'll know the situation.
To your point, when they show up and they tell you to drop the weapon and you comply, you're right. Like, this girl got shot because she lunged at people with the knife after she was told to drop it.
My whole thing, though, if you called the police multiple times, how long were you out there attempting to defend yourself?
Fair.
What all took place in the meantime for you to get that? Now, there's a good chance that once the police pulls up, especially being after that long, you're still fired up, adrenaline pumping.
Yeah.
Regardless of the fact, I don't care if you're saying that you're protecting the other people there, or you're pussy like I smell you are, and you're protecting yourself.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to go in shooting.
So, I agree, but there's a difference between going in shooting and then issuing a command and not having it followed and then attacking with a lethal weapon. Like, trust me, I'm with you.
How many deterrents do you have on your belt?
I'm with you there.
See, the issue,
and this goes
what it
back
comes
to,
down to, comes down to is the fact that black people are treated as inmates instead of citizens. See, if you get into a fight in jail, there are no victims.
Right.
Me and you are in jail and we get into a fight, I could have a knife attempting to stab you. Once that person comes in and says lay down, if we don't lay down, both of us get put down.
Yep.
That's how the police treats black people in America.
I agree.
Where when you view whites, it's for every video that somebody says she should have complied, I can give you 5 videos of a white dude chasing a cop.
Comply. Completely agree.
With a knife, with a gun, with whatever, and made it to jail.
The problem is that my argument with them would be the same, though. Is like, you didn't comply, cop has every right to kill you with that.
But why didn't you is the question.
I agree.
So why can I give you 5 videos to every one that you would bring up that you didn't?
Like, literally, there's one I can picture in my head right now where it's this obviously fat white dude, fucking wife beater, walking around a pickup truck with a fucking handgun, and basically like walking around, like walking towards the police officer, and the police officer looking like drop the weapon, like 30 times, and nothing ever happened.
Right.
So I agree with you on that count.
So,
but this goes back to training. Like, here's my biggest issue with
it's beyond that.
So what I would say is I agree with you. I've got a couple of different thoughts on this.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the issue is that cops are trained like shoot to kill, right? And we talked about it a little bit with,
but not in every circumstance.
Don't disagree, but they're taught to basically fair. What I struggle with is when we talk about like what T talked about last year with military police. What's the protocol? What's the escalation protocol? Cops are taught like the minute they feel their life is threatened to kill.
Pussy shit.
Right. There is no.
Your life is threatened when you put that fucking vest on, you pussy.
Right.
You signed up for this, pussy.
Nobody made you put on the blue, basically.
And then you think about, listen, and they've said, in the same mantra gets said every fucking decade, every generation. Usually the people that end up being cops are the people that got fucked over in high school and fucked over and that's usually what it is.
Or couldn't cut it in the military.
Some sherm-ass, pussy-ass looking dude that was like, yeah, I'll be a cop.
Right.
I'll be able to tell somebody to do something once in my life. That's the pussiest shit. Like, that's the pussiest shit. Like, I will scream that to the death of me. The United States has the pussiest police officers in the history of the world.
Right.
Meanwhile, having the strongest military in the history of the world, we have the pussiest citizen, civil servants in the history of the world.
Well, and that's where, like, when I start thinking about, it's funny you bring that up because, like, when I think about basically how could you blow up basically modern day policing and start over, I think the first step is it's ex-military. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some troubles with that too.
I'd rather have that than...
But they are taught, like, escalation protocols. Like, issue a warning and a warning shot. Shoot to, not kill, but basically disarm or, not disarm, but disable, rather.
I mean, I don't really care what your protocol is. I just need to know that somebody is.
Well, it goes the same for everyone.
It's like having a doctor with a shaky hand. I don't want you fucking operating on me.
Right.
So we got a whole bunch of shaky-handed police officers with scalpels, and we're expecting them to operate on the country, on the citizens here.
Right.
Like, what the fuck is that? I don't get it. Like, and listen. I'll put it to you like this, because we're going to have a lot more cases and a lot more trials. I'm going to put it straight like this. This will probably be the last time you hear me talk about it, because the next time it'll be some ignorant shit that comes out of my mouth. Like some very ignorant shit that comes out of my mouth. And let's be honest, I've never been the type to advise to do something I wouldn't be able or willing to do myself. So you most likely see it before you heard it. Because there's no other answer. There's no other answer. Can't expect a fucking amendment or a law to be put in place to fix the shit. This is deep. This is devious. We've come inches since the civil rights movement. And motherfuckers think because you gave a motherfucker a vest and a gun and took off the sheet and the rope that shit changed. Right. No, you're still hanging motherfuckers. You're just doing it with bullets now. Yeah. Nothing's changed.
These are still modern day lynching
We've come inches since the civil rights movement.
I don't disagree with what you're saying there. And I think that, well, and it comes back to, like, until you can see real change, until, like, every time something like this happens, the cop is convicted
or dealt with.
Right.
Or dealt with by other means. That's just what it comes down to. But at some point, if it's not going to be the government, there's going to have to be some sort of fear put in to where motherfuckers are like, I don't think we should do that.
Well, and it comes back to this whole, like, good cop argument. Until, quote-unquote, good cops are stopping bad cops,
I don't think there's a such thing.
I hear you on that.
I don't think there's a such thing as a good cop. I think there's such thing as a cop that would like to do good. But I don't think there's a such thing as a good cop.
Well, because what they are trained to police against is not the system. And,
it's not like, and it's just, listen, delusions of grandeur. Yeah. And motherfuckers that look at me and hear me talk and be like, yeah, he sounds crazy. But let me point out your privilege. You're welcome, bitch. Right. Once again, you're welcome, bitch. Because if you feel like I'm talking crazy, then clearly you've never felt like I'm in a situation just by complying with the person that I fucking pay taxes to. Right. So something's either got to give. Either I'm not listening or I'm not paying. One of the two.
Well, and this comes back to, too, like, it's a complete lack of community policing. And this is where I am a firm believer in the principle that, like, cops should live in the area that they police. They should be members of those communities. And it's the idea of, that's basically the idea.
If that's the case.
But wait, that's basically the idea behind the Panthers.
Right, but
Black Panthers protected black neighborhoods from the police.
No police, though. That's what I'm saying. That's different. Now, once you say they should police the area they grow up in, or they live in, it's still an issue. It's still an issue because
does that immediately become they basically become the crime bosses of that area?
Or I wouldn't even so much say that, but like certain areas just won't speak with police. Fair. And it would be a lot easier for us to police us than for someone that we don't speak to police. It doesn't matter if you put them there. That just is another person I'm not going to speak to in my neighborhood.
Right.
And that doesn't give you an advantage because you're now in my neighborhood. No, we're still not going to speak to you. Right. You're the police. And that's what it is the police have dug themselves in such a deep hole that the police sounds a lot like devil to me.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to comply with the devil. I'm not, whether you live next to me or not, you're still.
It's almost like you need to figure out how to federate, like, block watches or like neighborhood watches, and like
that would make more sense to me than
like
than
how do we create a nationwide template for neighborhood watches? And you have neighborhood watches like for each zip code where it's 10% of the population is tasked with basically policing isn't the right word, but basically policing that zip code. I don't know. Is that the solve?
That's not the solve because once again, there's delusions of grandeur. So if you give somebody that so-called power, what did they do with it?
Well, but okay. So what if I'm trying to think like ways that you could revolutionize it, not using current constraints and current systems. Like, is it?
I think we're in too deep. Omar Epps.
I hear you.
LL Cool J. I think we're in too deep. Honestly, I mean, because let's be honest. Like, even if you at this point, it would help. It would definitely help, but it wouldn't do anything to change the name. I don't want police.
Yeah.
Police at this point has been shit on so much that it's not anything that.
Well, it's almost like you need a.
And I mean shit on by bad police. I don't mean shit on by people talking down about police.
No, I know what you mean.
Bad police shit on that name, so the name's no good anymore.
It's almost like you need a step behind. Well, my thought was. So you have fire, you have EMS, you have this nebulous X, and then you have like neighborhood military. So like you're almost missing something, whether it's, and I think that the term that is used today is some sort of social services that sits in the middle there, but I don't think it's well defined. So fire makes sense, emergency medical makes sense. It's almost like mental health services and then social services, and then there's something between that and when people show up with guns. Like what's the name for police in this country without guns? It's security guards, basically.
Well, no, because even security guards got guns.
It depends on the firm and what the rules are, etc. But you understand what I'm saying? Like there's an intermediate force there. Like, it's almost like you have to have unarmed police that show up and assess the situation that are then making the call to say, all right, we need these type of people versus these type of people. Like, you almost need a different type of first responder than current day police.
You need a bunch of wasn't it Carl Winslow in
In Die Hard?
Yeah, you need a bunch of Carl Winslows. And I don't mean Carl Winslow, the Family Matters. I mean the dude from Die Hard.
Yeah.
That comes in that, oh, okay, yeah, this is above our pay grade. Yeah, bring the guys with the guns round.
Right. And unless there are already weapons involved, like, there shouldn't be any need for anybody with a gun there.
Right. Listen, motherfuckers in England, we said it last week. You got to deal with motherfuckers with guns.
Right.
You're walking into a situation where they called the police. Somebody may have a gun knowing you're unarmed.
Well, and my whole thing is
that's balls. Not only is that balls, that means that you really want to be a police officer.
I agree.
This current structure that we're in, there's there's not enough, and that's even ill to say, but there's not enough risk. There's not enough risk for you to prove to me that this is something that you truly want to do. I don't give a fuck what these pussies say. Every day we don't know. That's because you're scared.
Right.
That's because you're scared. Anytime you approach a traffic stop and immediately assume you're going to get shot, you're scared.
Right. Well, and what the fucked up thing is that, I'm sorry, the majority of the country isn't armed.
Listen, beyond that, I've been shot. It's not that bad. Niggas get shot every day, B. If this is something you really want to fucking do it. If not, sit the fuck down. Sit your pussy scary ass down.
So I'm not arguing with you on that at all. I think my point is, I think we need...
That's got to be one of the easiest ways to go.
What do you mean?
Getting shot.
Yeah.
One of the easiest ways to go. Like, it's there, I mean, yeah, a little pain, but I guarantee you felt worse pain in your life than getting shot.
Fair. I think the other side of it is, like, what I struggle with is all the technological advances we have, and we haven't figured out an effective way to basically disable somebody without shooting to kill.
Well, no, I mean, there's been multiples. You know what I mean? There's been the advancement of, before we had a stun gun, then we moved to a taser with a cord, then we got rubber bullets, then we got snake bites and a shotgun. We got all that. We just don't use them. And there's a reason that you don't.
Right.
Because it seems to me like an extermination.
I agree with that.
It seems to me like an extermination. So, let me stop.
No, I'm with you. Like, I think standard police should be armed with non-lethal weapons.
Nothing else.
Nothing else. And if the situation calls for lethal force,
you can have a gun.
You can call.
You just better have rubber bullets in that bitch, and you better not shoot in the head.
Right.
Or that's a charge.
Honestly, let's face it. Their aim isn't that great, anyways, unless they're immobilized. But
listen, I just went to my concealed carry training, and they explained the same way they explain the police. Shoot at the chest because it's the biggest
target.
Right, and not only is it the biggest target, like they teach you in boxing, chest body doesn't move like arms, legs, and heads do.
Yeah.
Nobody's Neo, but it's easy to move your head when you're about to take a shot and you miss that shot to the head when you could have aimed to the body that didn't move even though they moved their neck.
Right.
So, rubber bullets. I can't see too many people dying from shots to the... even if you shot 5-6 times, unless you hit them at the right spot...
Well, if nothing else, like, the question
they're not going anywhere.
The question is, rubber bullets at that point, is that enough to immobilize? And I think
Definitely.
The answer is yes. I agree.
Definitely. Especially if you're unloading a clip like they pussy asses do anyway.
Right.
I just don't get it. Like, you see people on the street with more...
I think that is the number one thing we could do, is basically being in a situation where standard police, I'll call it standard, because don't get me wrong, I do think there
should be levels.
Right.
There should be levels.
But it's an escalation protocol where, like, round one, there is no lethal, they have no option for lethal.
You don't even have rubber bullets.
Right. Round 2 is fine. Rubber bullets and
tasers,
smoke
all
bombs,
that bullshit,
batons,
batons,
tear
whatever.
gas, whatever.
You can have throwing knives if you like, but right. But let's.
And then level 3 is basically your SWAT team that does have lethal weapons.
I agree 110%.
And people know that when they show up, that the intent is to kill.
But see, the funny thing is,
if you don't surrender when they show up, that's on you.
The funny thing is about that is, and that makes perfect sense, but let's be honest, is there are devils in place to put demons in action.
So you're basically saying that even if that were the protocol, they would come up with excuses.
We're still not getting the devils out of the top that run the police.
I hear you. But at least at that point, like if that were to be, we'll call it standard practice. I'm not saying that that's not corruptible, because it is. But does that eliminate like the George Floyd type scenario, or the Eric Garner type scenario, or the Michael Brown type scenario? You know what?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. At that point, listen. At that point, it comes down to your true badge.
Right.
And when I say that, I don't mean to be divisive, but I mean your skin color. If you allow a police officer to do that to someone like you, and you're there, I feel like that's an issue on your behalf. Yeah. Let's be honest, like, and you know, a lot of people, well, let me say, myself included, but most people don't know what they'll do in a certain situation.
Agreed. Until you're faced with it, it's hard to tell what you would do.
Period. But there is no reason why. Because, see, my whole thing is this. And this is beyond race. This is in general. If I saw a police officer kneeling on a white man's neck, I would be feeling like, what the fuck is going on here? Right. And the last thing that would come to my mind is pull out my phone. I don't pull out my phone when I get pulled over. Right. And the reason being is, and I don't mean to take it there or be deeper. I don't give a fuck what the next move is. Honestly. If you're going to shoot me, shoot me. Right. But as far as a fear of that's not a fear of mine. So, let's approach this diplomatically, and let's both go home safe, because I guarantee if it's a thought in my mind that I'm thinking shoot me, I'm not going to let you know until I feel like I have the upper hand. Right. Period. And that's not something that I would imagine anybody would want to deal with. Yeah. Just stop. You know what I mean? There's no reason why the person who is the, for lack of a better term, the prey, and it's almost eerie how close that label really is. Yeah. Should ever feel like I have to make a move. Right. You know what I mean? You should be the wolf or the bear in control. So for me to be like, yeah, I'm just waiting here, hands tinted too, but you're starting to make me feel uncomfortable, I might have to make a move. That should never be a thing. Agreed. That should never be a thing. Like for rational people. Right. Of course, they're going to be your couple out of maybe 2 out of 10. They're going to feel like, I'll fight to the death and I'll drive off and I'll drag you with me. Well, that's what you signed up for. If that's your... Right. You wanted to be a cop. That's what you signed up for.
It's to deal with that 1 out of 10 where that might be a risk.
Right. And let's be honest. All you wanted was a fucking adrenaline rush anyway. Well, you got one, bitch. You're welcome. You're welcome.
That might have to be the new soundbite.
Listen, 100. Like, I just don't understand it, and I get it, you know what I mean? I know I talk crazy and I talk tough, and I mean that with the utmost, the bottom of my soul. I feel like the police and are so pussy. I know that might piss a lot of people off that might want to see me. See me.
Well, I almost wonder if that's a better message for...
See me.
I wonder if that's a better message, though, for instead of defund the police,
It's just disarm the police.
I mean, that might have to be it.
Is that a better hashtag? Like, does that get more people on board with it? Like,
give them
disarm
rubber
the
bullets.
police.
Bruce Lee, my G.
Right. Give them MMA training.
I mean, you know what's funny too? And it's, oh my gosh, it's so fucking funny. It's
See,
so
if nothing else,
funny.
I'm good to get Cliff off on
It
other
is
tangents.
so fucking funny that you say that, and this was a great tangent. I'm so glad we broke off of that, but let me tell you something. It's so fucking funny that you say that, because I also find that the most confident people, the most delusionally confident people in the world are police officers.
Oh, yeah.
And I've seen firsthand, and I don't know if I've ever said it on the podcast, but I find it so funny. And I just saw today on World Star a video of a police officer getting into a tough man competition and fighting this dude.
Did he tell people that he was a police officer?
Yeah, he did.
That was dumb.
He did. He won the fight. He did win the fight, but the dude he was fighting was just
ass.
Oh my gosh. And the police officer was too. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, you guys are so delusionally capable. It doesn't make sense. Every cop thinks they're a tough guy, right? I was in Tough Man with a cop in my weight class, and I was dying to fight him. Like you don't know the lottery, like when they put your name in the bucket to draw and all that. And they didn't really, they say they do, but they don't draw it in front of people.
Okay. So
you know what I mean? So they say
but
exactly, it's behind the curtains, which is why I got the toughest dude in my weight class first fucking round. And I'm thinking like, oh my God. Well, no, they gave me a bye. Nobody wanted to fight Tim. Tim's opponent left that day. They assigned him an opponent, and because after they assign you opponents, you don't know everybody's name, so you end up walking up to people like, are you Jeff?
So-and-so?
Are you Jason? Are you...
You walking up to people that are roughly your size.
Right. Well, I was already out of weight class. I was right below Blue's weight, so I already knew the people. I was only 2 people there I was worried about, and I drew one of them first day.
Yeah.
Blues dude came up to me, says, are you Timotheus? And you already know Blues ass. When the dude walked up to him and tapped him, he already looked at him like he had an attitude. So he looks up like, he said, are you Timotheus? He say, yeah. You see dude walk away, grabs his bag, puts it over his shoulder, walks straight out the door. So my list, he's heavyweight. I'm fighting light heavy. Supposed to be middleweight, but I'm fighting light heavy. So my list is coming out after his. So that was the first round. Second round, I'm, fingers crossed, police officer.
Yeah.
My name's not on it. Not on the list. So I go to the dude and I'm like, well, what's going on? Like, my name's not on the list. Well, congratulations, kid. You've been past the second round. You got to bye. So I'm wondering, like, that's not even a benefit to me. No. Like, I have to get loose. I haven't even gotten a chance to, you know what I mean? So now you're sending me home to come back to fight the better opponents.
The better of 2.
And I've never gotten a chance to get loose yet. So I'm already like, fuck, man, god damn. So we stick around and we watch for a second.
They saw that Jordan in the net.
I don't know what. Well, first of all, there was only 4 black people. 5 in the tournament. 5 in the tournament. 3 of them won. And there were only 4 weight classes. Okay. So that tells you.
Yeah.
So I kind of got the vibe that
this was in West Virginia.
Black dude in West Virginia. We're going to put him through the ringer. Right. Let's try to make him, So I already felt the deal. So didn't get the cop, got the guy I was worried about. And I'm not going to lie, I was worried about him.
Yeah. I think I saw this fight.
I was like, that's the one guy that I don't really want to fight. Yeah. Even the dude that won it, I was like, I want to fight him. He was like 6'4", 185, but...
That's scrawny, yeah.
But he was like, you could tell he didn't know how to use his length like that. So I was like, I can get inside and fuck him up. Dude I fought was not that guy. But cop steps in. Fights one of the black dudes. You know what? I said 5 black dudes, 4 weight classes, 3 black dudes, 1. One of them disappeared.
What do you mean disappeared?
I'm going to explain. Other black dude draws the cop. They go in there. And when I tell you this was one of the most brutal tough man fights I've ever seen, blood everywhere. He beat the fuck out of this cop. Like, I mean, beat the fuck out of this cop. All legal. Like, it wasn't like he hit him on the ground or anything. But he beat the dog shit out of this cop. I mean, blood everywhere. And you know there's a, like, you wear headgear. Whole face red. Whole face
Still
red.
Split something open here.
That had to be up top, nose, every whole face. Like it was like when he took his headgear off. I was like, I'm not wearing that. Like y'all might as well throw that away.
Right.
I'm not putting that on.
Right.
That headgear had to be wet. He was so bloody. He beat the dog shit out of him. Won the fight, steps out, never seen him again. He did not come back the second day.
He just showed up to fight the cop.
That could have been it, and I'm hoping that was it.
Right. Or
My thought was that the cop made a call. Exactly. That was my first thought. We're in West Virginia. You beat that man like that. He's calling somebody.
Right.
He never showed back up. He never showed up the second day.
You didn't like try to follow up on the dude?
I didn't know him. This was a weekend. This was a weekend visit for me. I was just thinking I'm about to come collect $1,500 real quick.
I'd have been like, yo, let me get your number just so I make sure you get home all
Man,
right.
he never seen him again. Even Blue was like, what happened to the dude that beat the... He didn't show up the next day. Because he was in the weight class I was supposed to be in. He was in 165.
180?
No, I fought 185.
Okay.
But I was trying to make 159.
Okay.
That was the cutoff, 159, and I weighed in at 162 and had to fight 185.
You should have taken another shit before you went.
I should have took my clothes off. I could have lost 2-3 pounds with my clothes.
Probably
I just
at
wasn't
least
thinking
2
about
with
it.
the clothes,
Right. I was just like, fuck it. I'm not really worried. I'll fight 185. Because I knew going down there, I was like, you're going to be right there. If you make this weight, you're going to be right there. And when they said 162, I was like, yeah, I didn't make it. Oh, well.
Yeah.
It's already, I'm not even going to stress it. Just go 185.
Gotcha.
And they asked me, too, like, you sure you want it? I'm here.
Did they give you the opportunity to basically like wait 30 minutes, go do what you needed to do?
No, they didn't do that because I guess with the tough man, once you step on the scale, that's your weight.
That's
but they did say, "Do you want to step off and take your clothes off
okay, so
real
they
quick?"
just
And
gave
I
you
was
that
like,
option.
"Nah, it's not." Like I don't, because I was gambling. Like it wasn't. We're in West Virginia. It's in April. It's not that hot.
Right.
I had sweatpants and a t-shirt on, so I'm thinking at most 2 pounds. I'm still 160. I gotta fight 185. So I was just like, fuck it, it's not worth it. Now they did have motherfuckers down to they like holding towels up around them because they was the dude I fought
Was there with
a towel around him. He was wearing a sauna suit the whole time, trying to cut weight just to get to 185. And he weighed in with a towel around him to get to 185. And I was thinking, God damn, man. Y'all just had to give me fucking T-Rex in here, huh? But that cop...
The one time that I weighed in it, because I was trying to make... So for wrestling, the cutoff was 189. I never got below 190.
I'm lying. They were both in my weight class. Because remember I said I wanted the cop.
Yeah.
So they weren't in the weight class below. They were in my weight class. Because I was hoping I drew the cop. So yeah, it wasn't... Yeah. I'm lying. They weren't in the weight class.
Well,
below.
maybe
They were
it's a
in my
good
weight
thing
class.
that you didn't draw the cop and whoop his ass, because we don't know what happened to poor contestant number 85739.
You know what I'm saying? And let's be honest, I'm in West Virginia.
We've had to talk about the sundown towns, Cliff.
But like I said there, all the And I don't mean to offend anybody. All the hillbilly, country-looking white folks,
cool,
nicest motherfuckers you met.
Yeah.
It was the motherfuckers in the suits and the collars that was like...
And again, like, don't get me wrong. I do believe that maybe not for the most part.
We had motherfuckers with Confederate hats, like, teeth missing, like, oh, you're fighting it. I might have to come down there and check you out. You fighting tomorrow? I'll be right there. I was like, yeah. Listen, I might have to come check you out then. I was like... My guy. We got a jump from somebody with a Confederate hat.
Nice.
They came out like, are you having troubles?
You having trouble there,
Pop the trunk. I got you. I was like, okay, West Virginia. Then I walked into that bank and saw them collared shirt whites, and they was like, what is he doing in here? And you know me, I expected to get that look in West Virginia, so what am I doing in here? Who's gonna do what about it? Yeah, but yeah, no, it was a pleasant surprise.
Who's the more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows him?
I still hate the smell though, because I lost.
Yeah.
Every time I smell West Virginia now, I think of a loss. That's why I feel like I might have to do it one more time.
You gotta go back and get a win.
Yeah, I think so. I think this April I might have to go down there and do that. Might have to
actually make weight.
Right. I don't know if I got a year. I'm gonna have to get that leg back because right now my leg is not strong enough to
that makes it tough to condition and lose the weight.
Yeah, that leg's not. But I weigh less now than I did back then.
Okay.
Like I'm only around 175 right now.
All right.
Where back then I was cutting like 180 something down to 159. So I feel like it would be an easier cut. Even though.
Yeah.
And I got a year to do it. I can do that. That's not a problem. You know what I mean? My only issue is my knee. I don't know about like. And it's only a 3-round fight. I know it'll last that long, but I don't know how much it'll give me out of that 3.
How much you'll have in the last round, especially.
Right.
I mean, I can relate to 3 rounds because that was wrestling, so I get that.
But I mean, yeah, just because I hate that smell, you know what I mean? And that's what it comes down to. It's not that I don't like West Virginia. It's the fact that I took that L there. And whenever I cross into that, it's like, smell of fucking defeat.
No, I get it.
I gotta get that back. But that was what I was saying about the police. They all think they're tough until they step in the fucking ring.
Well, they are tough because, to your point, dude was never seen again after the fight.
Yeah, his partner might have been tough. He wasn't. He got and you know me, very rarely do I get like ooey about a fight, like ooh shit, right. Like oh my gosh.
No, I've noticed that actually watching fights with you. I actually am the one that has any kind of emote or reaction to it compared to you. But
when I watched that fight, I was like, oh my god, oh my, stay down, oh my god.
You're ready to throw the towel in for it.
He fucked, man, it is no understatement. He fucked him up. He royally fucked him up.
Yeah.
He fucked him up.
Man.
I just wish it was me.
Well, speaking of fucking people up in fights,
good segue.
We're going to talk about Mortal Kombat!
Good segue,
so, real quick before we get into this conversation, this will be a spoiler-heavy conversation. So, if you haven't seen Mortal Kombat yet, go ahead, turn us off, and come back and, I don't know, check us out on the podcast later.
Right.
Now, I want to get your reaction first. Just thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle. What was your reaction? Gut reaction?
Let me think about it. I'm going to give him that. I'm going to give him a 45 degree.
Are you fucking kidding me? That movie was the biggest piece of trash I have seen in 10 years.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so at
I
all.
would rather watch the fucking second Jumanji movie with The Rock.
Oh, I don't know. I've never seen it.
Then watch that. I would rather watch Mortal Kombat, the first one, and Annihilation, than watch whatever the fuck that was I tried to watch this afternoon.
I would like to know your criticisms, and I feel like yours will be a little different than mine, because what I did find is at the end, everything that I was kind of criticizing kind of opened back up.
No, see, I don't know that that's the case. So my biggest issues with it were, one, the story was so jumbled, the plot was totally jumbled, and shit jumped all over the place, and I'm like, there was no logical flow from one thing to the next.
I 100% agree with you there.
Two, I thought the instances where they used CGI, the CGI was trash.
In some of them. One of them was when he fought, when Jax fought,
Raikou or whatever.
Right. Raikou. There was a point
and I wasn't familiar with Raikou. Is he from one of the later games?
He's
Is he in the games basically?
Not too much.
Okay, but is he in any of them? He must be in one. He must be in later ones. He must be in later ones.
Yeah, no, he's not usually a playable character.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he's not.
And
he's in that. He's like, if I'm remembering correctly, because they didn't do a good job explaining shit either. Like, so they called him Prince Goro. Did you notice that?
I did notice they said Prince
Goro. And that was a thing. So my understanding was the Raikou guy was a minion of Goro.
Okay.
Like he was one of Goro's, like you know, like Goro.
Goro's
right. They had 4 arms.
Goro's a general. Raiku's like his lieutenant.
Right. He was just strong, and he wanted to be a part. So they was like, yeah, you're the peon guy, but you don't have 4 arms, and you're not big like we are. You know what I mean? But it was just
my biggest problem with all of it, Cliff. Anything that was decent was in that first trailer. There was nothing outside of that first trailer that was good in that movie.
Well, see, okay.
I'm not talking about whatever trailer you watched last week or the week before.
No.
I'm talking about the first trailer.
I'm following.
And I would like to call out that I was right on 2 or 3 accounts.
Yeah, what?
One, that there was a time jump.
Yeah.
So basically that there was going to be like basically a jump off point in time.
Well, I felt like you knew that.
Right. And then 2 was the not Reptile, because we agreed on that at the end, but the
that wasn't Reptile.
The Reptile wasn't Reptile?
That wasn't Reptile.
Who was that?
You didn't see Pete when he said after they came back the first time and they didn't kill him, and he said, we killed one of the champions, but the others are still going, and he said, well, bring me one of the reptilians.
Okay.
But he didn't say reptile, he said one of the reptilians. And there was, like I said, remember when we talked about it before, I said there were reptiles but that didn't, I don't think that was reptile.
Then, all right, fine. I must have missed that little piece of dialogue, because honestly, like, the dialogue was so bad I couldn't track any of it. And the last piece was, like, basically...
the dialogue wasn't the best either.
No, it wasn't a good movie. And trust me, like, I went into it, like, wanting to be excited, wanting to like it, and them ending with Scorpion being, like... Scorpion was... Or the character they introduced, Cole or whatever... was basically like Scorpion's
great
grandson or whatever.
Right.
Like,
because Scorpion, because that's what, and that's another thing when I noticed that when they were explaining it. Well, they explained it on YouTube of who they thought he was. Then they dropped the 7-minute. Did you see that?
No.
So a week before the movie dropped, they dropped the first 7 minutes of the movie.
Okay.
To like,
which is basically people, that fight between Sub-Zero and
that's
Scorpion,
exactly what it was.
Right
Scorpion's before they started fighting.
Right.
That's what it was, and it started in 1617.
Right.
In the thing, so it was like evident
Basically
when
10
I saw
generations ago,
right when I saw the
Mortal
16,
Kombat.
17, I was like, okay, so there's no way he's his son, and because that's what they were saying, that the baby that was left in there was most likely Cole Young. But then they say the little boy says, "Can I see my sister?" Mm-hmm. And I said, "Oh, so that's like his grandmother."
Yeah.
But then when I saw the 16, 17, I was like, "Oh, that's like his great, 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 great,
right.
Like that's
family line, fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, what I will say is the only real issue I had with it, other than like the jumbled up, the bouncing around type shit, is everything was rushed.
I agree with you there. Like, and maybe that was part of it, and maybe that's part of the jumbled plot.
Now
is there like a, so that movie was what, an hour and 40 minutes?
Hour 50.
It was an hour 50 with the credits. So like an hour, like an hour 45 if you don't include the credits. Mm-hmm. Is there a 2.5 hour version of that movie that makes it good?
And that's a good question. No, that's a good question, because I do feel like everything was rushed. Like even the fight scenes, because like when you think of Mortal Kombat, you think of how durable the players are.
Right. And
one thing that I didn't like
lasted more than a minute.
Right. One thing that I didn't like was how Sonya Blade, when she finally got her mark and she shot through Melina with her thing, I was like, well, wait a minute, though, because that was never a finishing move.
No.
That was like Liu Kang's fire, and Liu Kang's fire didn't ever put a hole in somebody.
Right.
It just hit them, and they were
the way that he
stunned.
Hit Kano when Kano first showed up at the temple or whatever. Yeah.
Right. It was just a stun thing. Mm-hmm. And it was like, so wait, so Liu Kang, the most powerful of all of them.
Although, I do have to admit, I don't know that I could recall one of Sonya Blade's fatalities. Like...
Yeah, she...
I mean, I'm sure she had one.
No, she does, and I can... and I knew it, too. I just can't remember what it was.
I know in the first movie, she got...
Wasn't it the kiss? It was a kiss or something. Like, she blew
I thought that was Melina. Melina had the kiss of death. Did Sonya have it too?
Yeah, I think Sonya had it with like her rings. Like she threw blew a kiss with like her rings or something like that.
All right, maybe.
But I can't remember what it did or how it like hit. But all I'm saying is that laser shouldn't ever have been strong enough to put a hole in her first.
I hear what you're saying there, yeah.
Second, that was my biggest issue, is like how easy it was to kill. You know what I mean? Like they almost made it like, instead of Mortal Kombat, they made it like Mortal Kombat as in they have powers, but they're just human people.
I also just didn't like how the powers were set up. Like
how they got their powers?
That was actually the thing that I loved about the movie from the 90s. Was that, like, there were no powers until at the very end where Liu Kang did something, or, like, it wasn't like they were superheroes.
Wait, you're talking about the firsts?
The first Mortal Kombat movie.
Well, like, there were powers, weren't there?
There were powers for, like, Scorpion and Sub-Zero and those people, but Johnny Cage really didn't have powers. Liu Kang didn't really have powers. Sonya didn't really have powers. And I liked that more.
Well, Liu Kang did. It was just more so like the kicks and shit. It wasn't like the...
Right. It wasn't like the fireballs and that shit.
Right.
And like he did something at the very end, I think, where I can't remember for sure.
Yeah, he beat...
Shang Tsung.
At the end. I can't remember what that was. Yeah, but you are right. My whole thing was... And this is why I say it kind of made up for it at the end, is I felt like they shouldn't have been as easy to kill as they were.
Meaning, like, the baddies.
Yeah, like it was just like...
Well, and honestly, that was my...
A quick fight, like they're just regular people. They're not regular people, though.
That was my biggest issue, though, Cliff, was that at the end, with the Sub-Zero fight in particular...
Well, see,
Sub-Zero, after he was made out to be this, like, indomitable force the whole fucking movie, goes out like a bitch at the end.
Well, you know what? That's another thing, though. That's another thing, and I see that we're only at 10:50.
You want to take a quick break?
Yeah, let's take a quick one just
take
so
a
I
quick
can
break
piss,
and we'll come back
and then
here
because I do want to bring that right back on that Sub-Zero topic.
Somebody's saying they want to give an unpopular opinion about Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Unfortunately, I haven't caught the last
My pops
episode of
was-
Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
I haven't seen all of it.
So
but-
don't spoil it for us out there, Dark Sage 91.
Oh, well,
We
wait.
will,
No, we might have to. That's a new viewer.
But we can't spoil it because I haven't seen it.
So we
So
can
we'll
spoil
talk about it next
for
week.
everybody. But
Yeah,
they
motherfucker,
can't
it's our
spoil
show.
it for us. Well, please stick around, Dark Sage.
And we're going to come back and finish up our Mortal Kombat talk. We'll be
I
right
saged
back.
my body today.
You did what?
Yeah. For Friday, then I go back out Saturday to get another.
All right, fools, we are back.
And I didn't forget, we was on Sub-Zero, and you said that the last scene that you did not like.
It wasn't necessarily. It wasn't quite the last scene. It was the second to last scene, the last fight scene. And I felt like the fight between Sub-Zero, Scorpion, and his kid and his Cole. I felt like it was a good fight in the beginning, and then at the end, he kind of went out like a bitch. That's all I'm saying.
Sub-Zero did?
Yeah.
Well, see, that's the thing, though, is I feel like that may have been a mismark in the production of the movie. Because, I'm waiting to see the second.
I don't think
Right.
they're going to get a second, truthfully.
Oh, they'll definitely get a second. Oh, they'll definitely get a second.
I don't think that movie's going to go over as well as you like it, Mr. Jennings.
I mean, I didn't really like it that much, but I know a lot of people that did. But me from the Mortal Kombat, like me being a Mortal Kombat fan perspective, there were a lot of things mixed up in that. Like, first and foremost, never knew of Sub-Zero to be an underling of Shang Tsung.
Yeah.
That was never a thing.
No, well, and that was the other thing that just bothered me about the movie in general was that, I don't know, like, I really just feel like if you would take, like, you and I feel like could have written a better movie than what they came up with.
Oh, I definitely.
And honestly,
think
I haven't played a fucking Mortal Kombat game since Mortal Kombat, what was it, 3, where they introduced
Smoke?
No, well, yeah, Smoke was one of them, but what was it? The 2 robot characters,
Cyrax and Sector.
Sector, yeah, Cyrax and Sector. Codename Honey and Mustard and Ketchup.
That's right. You listen.
Which, by the way, did they blend Cabal with Cyrax? Is that basically what they did there?
No.
Did Cabal? I don't remember Cabal having a full like helmet like that. Is that something that's happened in the later games?
Remember, he said it there. He said he's the reason I have to live in this iron lung.
No, I understand that, but what I'm saying is, like, the Cabal I remember from the Mortal Kombat 2 and 3 didn't have, like, the full helmet. That was the Sector and Cyrax helmet that he was wearing.
No, I think.
I'm
Could
telling
you be confused? Because Cabal's always had the helmet.
No, Cabal had, like, the long teeth.
No. Baraka is who you're thinking
right.
of with the arm with
But
the
Cabal,
spikes that came out.
I feel
Cabal's
like
always had like the they're not crowbars, they're those Chinese things that like if you put your fist together they make the circle, but they're hooked at the top.
I think you're right though. I think I got it mixed up with Baraka.
Yeah, you're thinking of Baraka. He was like he's the same as Melina. Baraka and Melina are the same. That's why they have that mouth.
All right, you're right. I got that mixed up. Well, when did Cabal get introduced then?
Cabal was introduced in 2, I believe, the second Mortal Kombat.
Is he that?
Yeah, because he got brought in with like Sindel, the Screamer, and all them.
Okay,
remember,
so that's 3.
He
got introduced in 3.
Okay, then
that's
3.
why I'm mixing it up. Because my Mortal Kombat, we talked about this. My Mortal Kombat is Mortal Kombat 2. Specifically, the version
that we played
that
at
was
your
on,
dad's house.
Yes, because it was on the Genesis 32X.
Right, and then, right. He wasn't on that. Cabal wasn't on that.
I don't think so.
No, because it says he was.
I feel like he was, because I feel like he was the guy that when you ran past him, you turned into the tornado.
No, it was introduced. He was introduced in Mortal Kombat
3. Okay.
Yeah.
Now was 3 the
that
introduction
was Cyrax, Sector, and
of the new Sub-Zero?
Yes, the Sub-Zero that didn't have like the full hood, just had the mask.
Gray-haired Sub-Zero, the good Sub-Zero. So
the young Sub-Zero.
Right. So in the
gray hair didn't connect with me.
Well, yeah, he has. Well, that his hair was gray
Was it? Okay.
in the game. It was, but in the game, that Sub-Zero is Sub-Zero's son. And Sub-Zero turns him to Noob Saibot.
Okay.
Upon his death.
Got it.
Which is another reason why I feel like they were making something happen at the end of the movie. Because one of the reasons that I did, and I know I said I was going to get on the Sub-Zero thing after the break, I will. But one of the things I had a problem with, like I've been saying, is the fact that they were so easy to be killed.
Yeah.
But then at the end, Shang Tsung says death is just another portal, right, and he absorbs all of them, which lets me know that most likely none of them are killed.
Right.
So that kind of corrects the what I thought, where I was like, well, damn, like, because like if I'm being honest, what's the name he made that movie? What's his name? Dude with the eye.
Oh, Cabal.
Kano.
Oh, Kano. Yeah,
made that movie.
Sorry, yeah.
He made that movie.
No, he was the only
interesting.
Part, and I fucking hated him.
He made that movie. Kano made that movie.
Completely with you that he is the best character in the movie. But that tells you how bad that movie is.
Well, I don't know though, because I could see that happening in real life, like in like, well, not real life, but off of the game. Like, yeah. I could see Kano being the fan favorite, even though he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, but it was.
I just my problem was that I felt like so Kano was the highlight of the movie. I completely agree with you there. But I think that tells you how bad the movie was.
Well, I think that the only that what when I okay. So let me be real. Because I am being softer on the movie than I normally would be. I
wanted to like it. I want you to know that, like, I really wanted to like this movie.
I like what they did with it.
I would rather go back and watch the 1999 movie than watch that movie.
Serious?
Yes, completely serious.
I feel like there's hate there.
No, I would rather go back.
Are you talking about when Scorpion's hand opened up?
Yes, I would rather go watch that movie again than watch this one that I just watched. Are you talking about the white
boy Scorpion?
Yes, and I'm fine with that. Completely okay with it. It was a better movie. Would I prefer them to have? Would I prefer to have them have the 1999 movie plot with the 2021 actors?
Good way
yes.
to put it. Good way to put
it.
But
it was a better movie.
I don't think so. I just don't think so. I just think that
I feel like at least and I think it was 99.
I think the producer wasn't a Mortal Kombat fan.
I'm gonna keep saying the 99 movie. The 99 movie. At least it was a cohesive plot. At least, like, things flowed.
It matched with the game, too.
Right.
This matched nothing with the game.
Completely.
Nothing with the game whatsoever. There was no match. First of all, why would Shang Tsung's top 3, henchmen be Sub-Zero, Melina, and Cabal?
Those are 3 that don't even make sense.
Sub-Zero, Melina, and Cabal? And then how would Melina die before you get to see the rivalry of her and Katana?
Right. Again, why the 1999 movie made more sense?
Well, she wasn't even, Melina wasn't even in the 1999 movie.
Yes, she was.
No, she wasn't. There was Katana. It was just Katana. There was no Jade, there was no Melina, there was no nobody.
Okay. I thought Melina was in
Nah, it was just Katana. This was the first time we saw Melina, and that was another thing. She was... Let me stop. Let me back up. Because I almost said something pretty wild.
Well, that's pretty standard for you.
She wasn't Melina, though.
Agree with you.
Melina wasn't Melina. Melina was more of a soldier than a... So in the game, Melina... And this sounds weird, but Melina was more of a sex symbol type.
Well, and wasn't
she
the daughter of Shao Kahn?
Both of them were.
Right.
Katana...
And Melina.
Melina was the clone daughter of Shao Kahn.
Okay, yeah.
So they took some of Katana's DNA and mixed it with the Barakan DNA to make Melina.
Right.
But he still considered her his daughter.
Yeah.
As well as Jade, Melina, and Katana.
Right.
Now, Melina, in my opinion, looked like Jade. Because Jade was the black one with the wand, with the pole, the Donatello stick. Melina looked like Katana without the mask, or with the mask on.
Yeah.
The only difference was she had the bob.
Right.
But when she took her mask off, her mouth was wide.
Yeah.
So she was very attractive from here up.
Yeah.
Didn't make her that way at all. You made her more of a warrior, more of a soldier, which she wasn't. If you remember the games, she had strips around her tits, her ass, and all that. Like, it wasn't even like an outfit. It was like strips that wrapped around her.
I think that depended on what game, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, any game, she never had a full get-up. Yeah. She never, you know what I mean? And you just put her in a full leather.
Although, I do seem to remember in Mortal Kombat 3, like, she was in a full get-up. It was blue and Jade was purple.
No, she was always maroon, like a turquoise.
Yeah,
Jade's blue. No, Jade's green. Katana's blue. Melina's purplish pink.
Yeah.
Right.
Isn't that what I said? Didn't I say Melina was purple?
No, you said blue.
Okay, so I had her
When
and
you start,
Katana
yeah.
flipped. Okay.
But that makes sense because they were the two. They rivaled each other.
Right.
Melina didn't like the fact that she was cloned and she wasn't a full human, and Katana was the true princess or daughter of Shao Kahn. So she tried to kill her to take her place the whole time. Right. So you chose to leave out a pivotal character like Katana. You could have had Katana in the first one and left Melina out of it. You feel what I'm saying? Yeah. Build up the story, then bring the two in.
There was no story, dude.
There really wasn't. That was the biggest issue, is that the storyline was like... But I did dig, the one part that I did dig was when Sonya Blade was doing her research and they showed all of the old...
Yeah.
Like,
and you saw
Nighthawk.
Yeah,
you saw all that, and it made me feel like, oh, okay, so they're saying like over the years.
So
like,
they gave it a nod to it, but.
And the only thing that I did,
and honestly, like that's my thing. Like, I wonder if there's a quote unquote director's cut of that version or of that
goes
movie
deeper. Has to be.
That is good, because it felt
We're gonna
so
get the
fucking. The Snyder cut of Mortal Kombat.
That's exactly what I was looking for.
It felt like it jumped so quickly, like through things, and I was just like, I honestly like. I got
didn't explain anything.
I got halfway through it, and I'm like, I can't.
Even
watch
the
this
fights
anymore.
were like
when I texted you and I was like, "Hey, did you watch this yet?" And I said I still have a half hour left. I'm like, good, because I'm about to fucking turn this shit off.
I was about to turn it off when Shao Kahn took Kung Lao's soul. That was just the wildest shit to me, because
mine was the half hour before that, where Raiden transported them to like the other place to train before Shang Tsung and all his baddies showed up together.
What was the problem with that?
Because at that point they had jumped so quickly from one thing to the next. I'm like, I quit.
Right, like you didn't even build. I get it.
You didn't let it build at all. And then Kung Lao's introduction with Liu Kang, like coming out of fucking nowhere to like save Liu Kang, I'm done.
Well, that's what he did though. He was a teleporter.
I understand.
His power was teleporting. His power wasn't throwing the hat. It was teleporting.
I do appreciate the fact that they incorporated the teleport power. They didn't fucking use it again after that.
They didn't do it right, and they had him teleport into his hat while his hat was on the ground to pop back, but it wasn't how he used his teleport.
No,
he didn't even do the like the Raiden thing, like where he like, you know how him and Raiden both did the same thing. He didn't even do that, and then teleport back the other way to uppercut you in the air. Oh, I loved the up down, the Kano. Where Kano and Liu Kang was fighting, and he tried to jump. He did that in the game all the time when he tried to jump to avoid the. I loved it. I was like, oh, that's perfect.
I figured that people
was
would love that from the sense of, don't you know how to do anything else?
Fuck. He said, oh, fuck. He said it in the air, too. Like, jumped the wrong time. And that's what you did the whole time, too. I loved how they incorporated that, but...
I did think that was a funny moment, because all I could think was, Matt used to get so pissed when all I would do is fucking low kick him and fucking background house.
It's all right. You jump, you land, uppercut, and you start your combo.
But the other side of that is that I actually think that that's what threw me out a lot throughout the movie, was that they would throw in like the little lines that I'm like, you forced that in so much. Like, I caught that
as well. I hated
fatality.
When Kano did
Sub-Zero wins.
I was like, well, wait.
Like, get the fuck out of here.
When he first did it, when Kano ripped the heart out of the reptilian thing, I was thinking like, well, wait a minute. That wasn't a match. How was it a fatality if that wasn't a match? That was all of y'all fighting that one thing. Right. It wasn't a match, so it couldn't have been a fatality because you didn't beat him.
I didn't like the fact that they called it out themselves. Like, there was another one where we were like, flawless victory. You know,
Kano, when he hopped on...
Was that the reptile one, or was that...
No, when Kano hopped on Katara's back, the flying thing, and rode her and spun his hat down.
Kung Lao, yeah.
I said Kano, Kung Lao. That was a fatality.
I hated the flawless. So I hated flawless victory. I hated fatality, and there was another.
the Kano Wins is the one you're talking about where he took it out of Reptile.
Oh, right.
That one actually didn't bother me as much.
That one bothered me because it was like, how the fuck did Kano win if you didn't fight it?
But with his character and in that moment, out of those 3 examples, that one didn't bother me. Comparatively.
See, no, I mean, I feel like the one that didn't bother me the least was the Kung Lao. The flawless victory one.
But what is flawless? Like, who would say that in the moment?
Well,
like, Kano's character is a cocky motherfucker, and he pulls out the dude's heart, and he's like, yeah, Kano wins.
Right.
Like, that makes sense to me. That works for that character. The rest of it didn't work for him.
Well, see, the only reason why the Kung Lao did is because he knew she was coming.
Yeah.
Right? And he couldn't figure out where she was at, and then that's when he closed his eyes, and when she came down to attack him, he just jumped on her back and did that was his fatality.
Yeah.
Which was kind of odd to me that he did the fatality but said flawless victory.
Bingo.
As opposed to...
who said fatality? Was that Liu Kang with the fire on Cabal?
It sure wasn't. It was
it Melina and Cole?
Nope, it wasn't that either. And it wasn't Jax with Raikou. Who the fuck did say fatality?
It definitely happened, but I can't remember which one it was. It wasn't... Kano was just Kano wins. I don't think he said fatality Kano wins. Or maybe he did, and I'm forgetting. The Kano wins part didn't bother me because that felt in line with that character in that moment.
I get it, but I just felt like, how did you... Like, bitch, you were locked up in your chair the whole time.
Right.
The only reason you won is because...
But that's actually what makes it even better, because it fits even more with the character. That he's
right.
Like
I did it myself.
Bitch,
right.
Like I did it myself.
Oh, no, that was another one of my favorite parts where he got his laser and he was like... He said, laser beam? He said, that's way better than a pussy-ass fireball. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's my guy right there. I fucks with Kano. But,
Malcolm says that it was Liu Kang.
He
said fatality.
I don't trust Malcolm.
I do think he said that when the dragon ate Cabal.
I don't think so.
Well, we'll have to watch it back, which means I'll have to watch that fucking awful movie again. So you go ahead and do it, because maybe then you'll realize how bad that movie was.
Was it...
And I wanted to like the movie, Cliff.
No, it wasn't Scorpion. But that's another thing that I didn't like, is that Scorpion's face went back regular.
Right, like when he took off the mask, I was expecting it to be the skull.
I mean, it got there.
At least the skull down here.
It got there, but then when he put his mask back on, it went back normal when he took it back off to speak to Cole about, and he said, protect my lineage or whatever.
Right.
Why? Like, once
it
Scorpion went to Skull, he stayed the Skull. It just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah. No, I get it.
And Malcolm is right. It is Liu Kang that said fatality.
So
it is Liu Kang that said fatality, now that I think about it. But you know what's even crazy about it is that wasn't even Liu Kang's fatality.
The dragon?
No. That was his animality. Or
I feel like
that was his animality.
But I feel like in the early
bestiality is what they called it.
Bestiality?
Bestiality. I know what that means. But did he get fucked or did the dragon kill him is what I'm asking. I don't know. Was it a bestiality or an animality?
I think it was animality is what those were called.
But see, I don't think so, because I think the animality was when they turned into the little animal.
No, that was babyality.
No, that was when they turned into the baby. But remember, you could turn them into the animal, like where they'd be like the elephant, the little mini elephant, or the little frog.
Friendship.
No, that wasn't friendship, because in friendship they did the
See, I only remember babality, which was turning them into a baby.
Into a baby, right?
Friendship, animality, fatality. Those were the 4 that I remember. But again, I only played through, like, Mortal Kombat 3.
Yeah, I got Mortal Kombat 11 on the Xbox right now.
So Malcolm chiming in with he liked it, thought it was a 6.5 out of 10. You can tell there will be sequels as well, which they should get better and better because there was way more characters that will be introduced. I don't know that it was good enough to justify the investment.
That's
and
the thing.
And when you leave the cliffhanger, your cliffhanger.
Well, no, they had
to. Johnny fucking Cage.
Yeah, that was awful. That was awful.
Your cliffhanger is Johnny fucking Cage.
But you know why they did that is because everybody was expecting Cole to be Johnny.
Did they?
Yeah,
I didn't see all that lead up, so maybe that's something they did after the fact.
Yeah, in the original, they expected Cole to be Johnny, and then they started doing all the, well, he's wearing yellow, so he has to be akin to Scorpion, which was right. But and that's what I was going to say after the break is that that is a common misconception is that Sub-Zero was the bad guy. Scorpion was I won't call him a good guy, but the so-called. Scorpion didn't start getting ill until his family died. And then he got killed. And when he came back from hell, that was when he became that killer Scorpion. You know what I mean? But Scorpion was never an evil...
Are you talking about in terms of the video game or talking
about
in terms of
in terms of the video game.
I always thought Sub-Zero was, like, not arguing on your Scorpion point. I always thought Sub-Zero was framed as a good guy in the video game.
Well, see, he didn't. So, in the first video games before the backstory really came out, it was like they were just ninjas.
Yeah.
They didn't belong to the only factions they belonged to were the Lin Kuei and the what's it called?
The Shaolin.
Whatever Scorpion is.
Yeah.
But they were like mercenaries in a sense, where they didn't answer to anybody, but they would do work because there was a situation where it was in the games where it was vice versa. Where the evil, Kung Shang Tsung and them got Scorpion to go after Liu Kang. Yeah. But in the actuality of it, it was Sub-Zero who started out bad. Okay. Scorpion was good. Sub-Zero killed Scorpion. Killed him. Scorpion came back, killed Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero came back as Noob Saibot, who was all bad, and then his son or brother or something became the new Sub-Zero who stuck with the human realm, the Earth realm. Right. But the original Sub-Zero never fucked with the Earth realm. Right. But he didn't really fuck with the outer world either. He was like a mercenary.
Right. He went wherever the pay was best.
Right. And they kind of, I don't know, it was just weird. Like, it seemed to me like the person that made it, the producer, was not a real Mortal Kombat fan.
No. Well, and honestly, that's the issue with video game movies in general is, again, and I think we've talked about that, is the fact that the people who end up making video game movies aren't the ones that are playing the video games. Right.
And to what Malcolm said, and this is kind of a detractor to his point, he said it set it up for the second one that would, down the line for more. There's not a lot of characters left. There's not. There are for Shang Tsung's side.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of them. You know what I mean? The Taro, which was the stronger Goro, the tiger-striped Goro. There's Shao Kahn. There's Sindel, like we talked about. There's Reptile.
There's not a ton of.
And even Reptile in the video game switched over to help the human realm at one point.
Right.
But when you think of the human realm, you get into the new generation of Mortal Kombat, where you have Jackie Briggs, Jax's daughter.
Gotcha.
You have Cassie Cage, Johnny Cage's daughter.
Well, and they're introducing Johnny Cage, so you're not going to get
How
Cassie
far?
Cage.
away is Cassie Cage and Jackie Briggs.
Well, and
so,
you already showed that Nighthawk or whatever
is old. He's dead already. He passed his symbol.
So you could introduce
Stryker, Katana.
You could introduce. I actually think Katana's a good play because to your point on the Melina Katana angle.
What's his name? Boanshi or whatever. The drunken master, the bigger dude that had the long hair.
That must be after I played.
Yeah, he's probably like, I think he was like 7 or 8 when they introduced him. He's a big dude, but he's a drunken master.
Gotcha.
Like
yeah.
Him.
Well, still, that's 3 or 4 people that you could introduce, and you carry over at least Sonya and Jax.
But unless you introduce one per sequel,
okay,
there's
so
not a lot.
You could at least get to a trilogy,
right?
Because to your point,
Stryker, Katana,
you could introduce
Johnny
Stryker,
Cage.
Katana, Johnny Cage in the next movie. You could introduce their kids in the following movie. There's 3 movies.
Yeah, I guess that works.
I still don't believe that movie will be good enough to justify sequels, but
the only good thing that I liked, that I could say hands down I liked about it, was the kill graphics. The kill graphics were good.
See, the only one I liked really was, and honestly, it bothered me because the rest of the fight, the CGI was terrible. But when Jax goes,
that was one,
and then he says, "Yeah, these will work."
Yeah, these motherfuckers work.
That was my problem. Is that I felt like there were points where the movie took itself too seriously, and then there were points that realized like this is meant to be campy.
I don't think anything. I didn't really get a too serious vibe from any of it.
And maybe that's just,
I was hoping
that
for
was
that.
my projecting.
Yeah,
but that was my whole
for
thing is that I felt like they couldn't decide on what the right tone was. And so there were points of it that felt very campy, and there were points that felt like it took itself too seriously.
Here's my biggest issue. Biggest issue hands down with the movie. Cole Young was the Asian Black Panther.
Say more.
Your suit absorbed the damage for you to fight back harder. Or,
is that what it was?
Yeah, he got hit and she said, "Dad, hit him with the uppercut." And he absorbed all the and hit Goro.
Right.
And then Goro hit him again, his suit lit up, and then he grew the billy club and the knife.
Yeah.
So you're Black Panther with the billy club and a knife? He has claws. You have a billy club and a knife.
So does Cole exist in the current games?
No, he doesn't. And then that was another
Are they going
thing.
to try this? Are they going to introduce him as basically young Scorpion?
They're trying. No, he can't be young Scorpion because he's not anything like that. Even when he had the Scorpion tool, he didn't know how to use it.
I would like to call out that's what I said though, right? Was that Cole was going to be a new character that they were introducing.
Right.
So that was the other correct prediction on my account was the.
Yeah, you did say that.
The first one was the time jump. The second one was that they were introducing a new character.
But yeah, like it was just so dumb. Like even when he said this was your father's. Or your grandfather's, and he gave him the knife and he tucked it in his back. Like, it was just so uneventful. Like, I was thinking, okay, at least he's going to pull it out and throw it, and maybe his suit brings it back type shit.
Yes, exactly. I was expecting the same thing.
And you know what's fucked up is that...
You know what that moment was reminiscent of for me? Was when... You see, it was in Force Awakens, and Kylo is trying to bring Luke Skywalker's saber to him, which is the saber that Rey was fighting with.
Right.
And you see the saber fly past Kylo, and it's Rey that catches it.
Oh, really?
Everybody who was a big Star Wars fan at that point expected it to actually be Luke, not Rey, who caught it. Meaning, like, Luke shows up and saves the day.
Right.
That was the same thing I felt about the Scorpion thing in terms of, I expected him to like throw it, and to your point, like bring it back. And it was like one of those things that was
or
set
at least
up.
Scorpion like
Right,
it
or
from
Scorpion
there.
brings
but then
it. Yeah.
when he hit him with his separate one, I was like, oh, so he said fuck his wife's tool.
Right.
He has a new one now.
Right.
Like it was just all off to me.
There are points in movies where like I get wanting to subvert expectations to
Right.
surprise the audience, but there are points where you have built something up so clearly,
right,
that sometimes you just need to deliver on what you have built up.
right.
Whether it's the ray in the forest or the lightsaber in the forest, and you expect it to be Luke that catches it, or whether it's this movie and you see him throw it and you expect him to be the one that pulls it back.
But you know what though, for me knowing as much as I know about Mortal Kombat, I knew that weapon wouldn't have worked from the beginning.
Fair.
Because the evolution of Scorpion, for anybody that remembers when he threw that shit out, there was a specific point in time where it opened up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Where like the pieces opened up and that one piece
like
went
clamped,
in
yeah.
and clamped and clamped on you. Then he pulled
Get
you
over
over.
here.
But with that one little like knife, there was no room to evolve that weapon
Right.
to what Scorpion
You almost
is.
had to have it be something that was shaped like a cone almost.
Exactly.
So that it could open up.
Exactly.
Versus it just being a knife.
A straight,
just being a blade.
right.
Yeah.
But I
don't know,
mean,
man.
like for the visuals, I mean, I guess I enjoyed the visuals of it, but like you said, it was just so.
My biggest issue is that the trailer was a better movie than the movie. I mean, honestly, like all the good fight scenes, all the good kills were in the trailer.
Would I say that? I might agree with you on that.
Like I'd watch that trailer a dozen times. I won't ever watch that movie again.
You know what? If I'm being honest, it's not anything that I care to watch again.
So I guess on that note, fools agree. Watch it once, no reason to watch it again.
I'll give you that. It was no 300. Let's put it that
No,
way.
absolutely not.
And I guess that's what I was expecting. Not expecting. That's what I was hoping for.
You were hoping it to be another 300. I was too, man. Like
Probably
they
been
did a good
another-
job. They did a good job selling it in the previews.
And it could have been so much better. Like they started it out so fucking great.
Well, and you know what's interesting is like 2 or 3 reviews that I saw were like, Mortal Kombat's a great movie until it isn't. And I feel like up until the point where maybe it's all the way up until they get to the temple.
That's what I was about to say. Up
It's
until
a
the point
decent
they
movie.
leave to go to try to find Raiden's place.
Exactly. Like up until they
I
get
loved
to
it.
Raiden's temple, it's an okay.
Loved it
movie.
when Sub-Zero came.
You
to
like it a
the-
little more than I do, but I mean, I think it's an okay movie up until that point. Once you get to that point, I'm like, I don't fucking
No, I
care
loved
anymore.
it. I loved it. The one thing I didn't like was the Kano shit. That was the only thing that threw me off up to that point where it was the whatever he said.
But what,
I was
the laser eye? Is that what you're talking about?
no up until where he pulled the dude's heart out.
Oh, okay. Now, see, up until that point, I was still in. I was still
I
in
was
at that
kind of
point.
like, now you're losing me.
You were there were bits and pieces before that where I was like, I was still in at that point, but basically when Liu Kang shows up, I'm like, nah, I'm done.
See, what I liked about now this is what I will agree with you on, is what I liked about the original Mortal Kombat is there were stakes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was an actual tournament. So you were in that fight with that person one-on-one. There was no help from your friends.
Right. And
There
that
was nothing like that. So if you got the win, you got the win. That's what made it seem so dangerous.
Yes.
But if I know that I got my people behind me, it's not as...
Well, and the whole, like, they forced it to be a tournament because Raiden transported people places. Like, that was dumb to me. Like, don't get me wrong.
Why not just start the tournament?
The concept of Mortal Kombat is not, like,
Did the tournament ever start?
No.
They never even did the tournament. The tournament, and I get it, from the dark side, they were trying to stop them before the tournament started. Yeah. And you turned it into a little semi-sub tournament.
When honestly, if the dark side had just let it be a tournament, they'd probably win.
Oh, they would have won. They would have won.
Right.
I even think Melina would have beat Cole.
Right.
They would have won. Period. That's another thing I felt
Completely agree.
I felt like they made Scorpion too weak.
Well, I agree with you there.
Do you understand what you just said? What you just wrote into the script, right? Like, so basically, what you're saying is that that's Quan Chi's the one dude. That's another dude that they could bring in on the bad side. But what Sub-Zero's real name? Like, okay, you beat him, right?
Yeah.
Get it. Got it. Good. He goes to hell. Instead of suffering in hell, he thrives in hell and learns how to use the hellfire.
Scorpion, yeah.
Then comes back and still isn't as strong as the Sub-Zero that killed you originally. Which was never a thing.
Right.
It's always in the hierarchy of fighters, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, How did Scorpion defeat Hell and come back and struggle with Sub-Zero?
Right.
Why did you need your great-great-great-great-grandson
to be the one to step up?
Right. Like, you were always stronger than him, and now going to hell didn't make you any stronger?
No. Yeah. No, I'm with you.
It was, listen, I don't know. I mean, but if I didn't know what I knew about the game, I would like the movie.
I hear you.
But knowing what I know about the game and the way they made it,
So my problem is that I don't think you even watch it unless you know the movie. And I think on top of that, if you are a casual fan like me, who maybe played it in the 90s, so you played 1, 2, 3.
Right.
Maybe. The plot is so bad.
It is.
And
it was awful.
The fights don't make up for it. And I wanted the fights to be worth it, and they weren't.
They just weren't long enough.
Yeah.
They weren't long enough to make up for the fact that they were missing the ball on the plot.
Right. So, with all that, we are at about 2:15. I do want to hit up real quick, just before we close out, I do want to read through... We've been keeping tabs with Malcolm in the chat. I do want to hit up Dark Sage, who said they wanted to give an unpopular opinion about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. They didn't like the series. They felt it was generic Marvel with no new real concepts or ideas added in. The chemistry between them, they felt was lacking. I've always said Spider-Man can make teams work because of his chemistry and how he interacts with people. This was very flat in my opinion, and I quickly lost interest in anything Marvel was trying to do. I felt the series was lacking in originality, and again, these two characters did not work well together. Now, yes, it would be stale to have Spider-Man be the only superhero that tends with others, but he can make it work. I respectfully am going to disagree. I actually think that they tried to do something different with this show, and it was much more of a personal story, and I think that that's what they're doing with the TV shows in general.
Now, let me ask...
shows in general have been very personal stories. I think you saw that with WandaVision, and I think you see that with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's very much more about the personal development.
Right. Let me ask a question about that, because
Malcolm also wants you to know the Cavs lost. But
there are certain things that Cuz said, what's his name?
Dark Sage.
Yeah, there's certain things that he said that I do agree with, because listen, let me be 100% honest. I hate Spider-Man.
Well, he's actually a big Spider-Man fan, is what it sounds like. Do you think Spider-Man can save some of the Marvel in terms of he makes people work better together?
And I agree. That's the one thing that I do agree with.
Okay.
As much as I hate Spider-Man, I do agree that when it comes to, like, team play.
Team it up.
He's the best character for the job.
I hear you.
Now, what I'll also say to kind of touch on what you said is I feel like currently, and this is much deeper than Marvel, let's be honest, I feel like currently Disney is in a fight to resurrect themselves in this era of information.
I think that's fair.
And
I think I know where you're going.
Right. I'm the first person to say fuck the Nazi sympathizers in Disney. I don't care who owns what. It's kind of like we talked about the police. It still says Disney. That still means that you're a Nazi sympathizer. So while you're arguing to cancel people and fire Gina Carano, take a minute to look back in your own mirror before you are so quick to give up on everyone else. But what I will say is, since that has been so notable in Disney, I think I'm not the only one to realize they're on a political climate shift. Yeah. To where I feel like there was an underlying narrative with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier that was beyond the story of the comic books.
Fair.
They were trying to put two people that did not belong together to show that you could work together even with people that don't match. And I feel like that was the underlying message of the TV series.
So what you're saying is that they were basically trying to force feed us the idea that two people that are on opposite sides of the spectrum can work together.
Period.
Okay.
That's what I got from the idea. Now, of course, I haven't.
Of course, you haven't watched any of these.
Yeah, I haven't, and I've always said that out of all of the Marvel characters, I think the Winter Soldier is very interesting to me, and he's always been somebody I was interested in watching. But I've gotten hip to the whole equation calculation that they've been trying to pull off for a while now. Yeah. And I just feel like do that separately. Yeah. You know what I mean? If you want to get in people's good graces, do a promo run. Right. Don't try to put it into a TV show that people are hoping they can get some sort of nostalgia from. Don't try to switch something to fit what you want to do when there are so many people that have tracked this before you decided to create this show.
So I think the problem is that I've never been a big comic book reader. The comics that I've read are...
Yeah, I'm not either. But you know, it's funny. I know a little bit more about the comic books than I do about
like the
movies or the shows, and I'm like, well, wait, that doesn't really match with what I know.
So I guess my question is like, one, until the Marvel Cinematic Universe, till the movies, I was not familiar with the Winter Soldier at all.
Well, of course, I knew him first not first. I've heard of him in the comic books, just didn't know what he was or what he stood for. And then saw him in Captain America, wasn't it?
Right, yeah. Has there been comic runs with him and Falcon before?
I believe so.
Okay, see, I believe
so.
I didn't know that.
I believe so.
I thought that was something that evolved more out of the MCU. But
no, I believe that there were.
There has been comic runs with Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Now, I could be wrong, but I do definitely, I feel like I'm a good 85% sure that there were.
Okay. Well, that may be one that we'll have to come back on because I'm not familiar enough with that. If there is a comic run there, I'm not familiar enough with it to speak on it in terms of is what they're doing in the show different from what they've done in the comics. Right. So I don't want to judge it too harshly, but I do hear the point. Like, if you feel like they... I don't know. If it's based on the comics, I think that actually strengthens the argument around, like, not a bad thing for them to be showing those two working together. Right. But if it hasn't, and this is the first place they've done it, okay. I can understand that argument a little bit more. But if it's been done in both, then that argument has a little less weight. So.
Yeah, what year was this?
I don't know.
Yeah, there was, it doesn't tell me the year, but you can get them on eBay, Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Okay, so there has been runs of it, at least in the past.
Maybe not. This is saying 2020.
So that would have been his...
Oh, no, 1992.
Okay, so there has been runs like this in the past. All right. Well, I think that actually discredits the argument a little bit, but... Anyways, we do appreciate the feedback, Dark Sage. Thank you for chiming in, and honestly, like, even if we don't agree, we're happy to get your opinion. We're happy to have that conversation.
Definitely.
Mr. Jennings, you got anything to take us out? Where can the people find you? What you got to say? What do you got?
Tell the pig stop being pussy. That's a double negative. Can't have ham and cat together.
Hey, if you really want to find Cliff, though, find him over on the Hit the Showers podcast. Still here on the Foolproof Entertainment Network.
Shit.
Broadcasting, what, you guys going twice a week or still? Like Wednesday nights and
Wednesdays and
Saturdays? Wednesday night is NBA talk. Saturdays are NFL and fight sports.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, your boy might show up every once in a while on those shows, especially to talk a little football.
Listen.
We might have an extra show next week to talk the first round of the NFL draft. But with all that being said, my name is Michael Reggie. Thank you for joining us tonight. Do us a favor. Hop over to the Apple Podcast if you're not listening to us there to begin with. If you are already there, do us a favor. Rate, comment. Helps bring it up in the numbers. Helps gain additional views. And if you're not a fan of us already on Facebook and YouTube, go ahead and go over there, subscribe, add us as a friend, all that good shit. With all of that, this has been Do Fools Agree. Peace out, fools. Appreciate y'all.
Ham and cat don't go together.
Ham and cat.